Hello everyone, welcome to Nareen's Life with MS. This is Nareen and let's get on with the Soulful Saturday. Now, I think that this Saturday, especially considering that this is going to be, the end of the winter break weekend, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are just pretty much waking up for the year, getting ready to getting ready to start the year off fresh. And funnily enough, one thing that I do want to add is, 2026, January 5th, will actually mark 11 years since I actually started working because my first job was on 5th of January 2015. So that is a pretty interesting thing that I did want to share with a lot of people, and definitely one thing that I do have to stay in regards to this Soulful Saturday, considering that coming Monday it will be 11 years since I actually started working. um, I just wanted to take a little time to reflect on, um, how many things have actually changed in the past 11 years, right? Good and bad on both sides. Oh, I mean, and of course, I do want to focus a little more on the good sides, the good aspects, rather than the bad aspects, because, there are a lot of other days for that. Um, so one thing that I do want to say is that, the past 11 years, one thing that I've definitely seen or experienced is quite a bit of growth and understanding about, my own body, right? I mean, a lot of times, what would happen in the past is, if I put my mind up to something, I would generally tend to do it, be it that I would stumble along the way, I would fall, get hurt, do all of those things. But I'd say that in the falling, getting up, doing it, I actually learned to have a little more respect for my body, just because you know um, not being able to do certain things that I was able to do in the past does not mean that you know that I can never do it again. It's just that it will take a little bit of time, a little bit of recovery to pretty much get there again, right? And that became a little more clear to me, definitely when I would um, stop working out and then start working out again after a little bit of time, or a little too much time, because I would look at myself and I say, okay, fine, I've hit a goal. So as it is, like, the work is done, right? It's finished. And that was maybe the biggest issue I was going with, considering that there is no ending to doing something like working out, to pretty much no end to learning new things. There is no end to pretty much trying something new at any point in time. And maybe this is something that I have to keep learning along the way, right? I mean, this is something that I might even talk about in a year's time, just because just having the ability to you know gather that respect, to grow that respect for yourself, does take a little bit of time. It does take a little bit of patience, and it definitely does take a little bit of just understanding, that even if something does not happen from the get-go, or if something does require a little more time, it does require a little more care, it does not mean that it's not unachievable, right? It's just something that you definitely have to plan more in terms of a long term thing, and definitely something that you can't compare yourselves with other people for, just considering that everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses, and we can't just rely on strengthening our weaknesses to become like overall strong people, because we have to make sure that we pretty much work on our strengths as well, to make sure that there is a new level that we are setting for ourselves, right? I mean, more often than not, especially nowadays, we have a tendency to compare ourselves with other people, and the biggest thing is the only person you actually have the right to compare yourself with is yourself. So really the only thing you can do is just think about who you have been in the past, and try to see what were the strengths of that version of yourself, and work on seeing if those strengths are at least at a higher level now, considering you're a little older, you're a little wiser. And then of course any weaknesses that you saw maybe in the past, you can also evaluate whether you're actually strengthening those points as well, right? A lot of times, especially when I look at myself as being a multiple sclerosis patient, there are certain things that are getting a little bit weaker. There are certain things that just don't happen. I mean, this weekend I think I've already slept like close to, I want to say, 40-15 hours. But but the one thing I do want to say is that not every day is going to be better than the last day. The only thing is you have to look at it over time. Are you growing overall, right? Are you actually building that level to call yourself a better person today, as opposed to in the past? And of course, part of that also helps in building that respect for yourself. So honestly, the self-respect is the biggest thing. And the funny part is, I totally forgot what I started off this video saying. But essentially what I do want to end on is just the fact that considering it's the start of a new year, and um, you know and before we actually get started on work on Monday, start our new year, start 2026, to make sure it actually becomes our year. um, it's very important to actually try and take a little bit of time, try to take a little bit of try to introspect a little bit about how have you improved over the past few years, over the past x amount of time, and do really evaluate yourself in terms of what were you before and how are you better now. And do learn to build that respect for yourself, because a lot of times, a lot of things that we find respect in ourselves for, we actually don't work on in the past. So do look at that as you know a big point of growth. And honestly, let's continue making it even better for 2026. And with that said, I hope your weekend is going very well. This is Naren Zai with MS. I am Naren, and of course, I do want to say a very, very good night. I hope your new year started off very well. And of course, let's do try to make this year just a little bit better than the last one. And if not, do find a way to respect yourself a little bit more each and every day. Bye.